With Lahai Roy almost on the horizon, people are probably wondering if Phoebe is still worth pulling or not. That's what I'm going to be discussing in today's video by discussing Phoebe's biggest pros and cons. I believe that when it comes to discussing positives for Phoebe, it is incredibly important to discuss one major benefit that this character has. And when I say major, I do mean it. Out of every DPS character in the entire game, Phoebe has by far the largest amount of teams she plays in. When there's DPS Phoebe, you're looking at Ferlova Spectra Rover, Sanhua Spectra Rover, Mortefi Spectra Rover, Shakona and Spectra Rover, Shakona and Shorekeeper, Shakona and Verena, Spectra Rover and Shorekeeper, Spectra Rover and Verena. And those are just the ones that you're going to commonly see. There's so many other characters that Phoebe is capable of synergizing with. Characters like Yang Yang and Yuno are still good teammates for Phoebe, so ultimately, if you're just trying to get a DPS team together but you don't have many supports, Phoebe is going to be one of your best options. The only other character that I can really think of that has this many teams as a DPS is Ferlova, and even then, a lot of the teams Ferlova is good in has her taking more of a supportive role, whereas within Phoebe's team, she is consistently the highest damaging character. Even in the Ferlova Spectra Rover team, Phoebe does more damage than Ferlova, although I will say it isn't exactly a very fair comparison because Phoebe is getting more buffs than Ferlova is in this team. Phoebe just has so many teammates, it's honestly ridiculous. It truly does not matter what your account looks like, because if you have an account that has literally any sort of characters free, Phoebe is going to be able to make use of that as long as your rover is free. And even then, if your rover isn't free, Shakona is also a good option if you have her. Another very nice positive that Phoebe has is that she has very good AoE. AoE is something that's becoming more and more important, especially now that we got the 3rd and 4th tower floor added, which means that thanks to the 3rd tower floor, there is some more AoE checks. And it's not just AoE checks, it's more tanky AoE checks. Which means that you're not able to just throw any AoE DPS at it, you need someone who actually also does good damage within that AoE. And Phoebe is going to be a very good option for that. All of her basic attacks when she's standing within her Ring of Mirrors has very good AoE, and she's even capable of grouping whenever she is attacking enemies that are in the Ring of Mirrors. Her heavy attack Star Flash and her Liberation also have very high AoEs. So not only does Phoebe have good AoE damage, she also has good enemy control thanks to her ability to group. And that's not the end of it when it comes to controlling enemies, because when you cast her Resonance Kill, enemies will be stagnated for 2 seconds within her field, giving her even more control over if the enemies are allowed to move or not. Now you are going to want to cast the skill as early as possible, not only due to the energy generation, but also because you want to have the Ring of Mirrors up for your enhanced basic attacks, but just know that on any subsequent rotations, you are going to be able to control the enemy a lot better. If your rotation ends up being long enough that you're able to cast your skill twice, the second skill cast means that you will be able to have enemies be stunned during one of your support rotations, allowing them to do their job easier. And for some characters, especially Spectra Rover, it is imperative that the enemies stay still and isn't able to easily run away from them. So Phoebe having this bit of crowd control is really useful for dealing with AoE scenarios. Another very good thing that Phoebe has at her disposal is that she's going to be incredibly simple to play. I mean, Phoebe quite literally tells you what to do. She gives you massive glowing buttons to tell you what you're meant to do. Either you hold her basic attack for DPS or hold her skill for support. Then you want to set up her ring for enhanced basic attacks, do 3 basics and then heavy until your forte gauge is empty. Throw in your Liberation whenever that's up. It's really simple. It doesn't get any simpler than this. If you hate having to think about what you're gonna do on your character next, Phoebe is going to be one of the best options, especially if you're on a lower end device and struggle with frame rates. It's going to be very hard to see what the enemy is doing when you're playing on a lower end device. So the less effort you have to put into your gameplay, the better, because it gives you more of an ability to look at what the enemy is doing, allowing you to dodge easier. And Phoebe is also very good at benefiting from dodge counters, having one of the best dodge counters in the game. Her dodge counter functions the exact same as her 3rd basic attack, meaning that not only are you able to dash cancel it nearly instantly, you will also be able to use heavy attack Star Flash right after using the dodge counter. which will greatly speed up your Phoebe's rotation time. Combining this with the concerto energy that you get from a dodge counter, it means that Phoebe will be able to use her Ultra skill especially early, which is very impactful if you're playing her as a main DPS, because her Ultra skill is actually one of her highest damaging abilities. In fact, if we only look at multipliers, Phoebe's Ultra skill has the highest multiplier in the entire game for an S0 character. Another very important thing to mention when it comes to Phoebe's value is that she is absolutely instrumental towards Zani's performance. Zani was designed around Phoebe's existence, meaning that Phoebe is incredibly instrumental towards Zani's performance when you're trying to get a higher level of performance out of your Zani. Zani is seen as one of the better DPS characters in the game, but something that a lot of people reject is the fact that this is incredibly tied towards Phoebe being in the team. Phoebe gives Zani an instrumental amount of buffs, 100% damage amplification, 10% res shred, and giving the perfect amount of Spectrofrazzle for Zani's Spectrofrazzle to Blaze conversion is going to be one of the best things a Zani can obtain. So if you just got Zani this current banner and you don't have a Phoebe yet, I highly suggest getting Phoebe. And for any future Spectrofrazzle DPS character, there's a very high chance Phoebe is going to end up being one of their best supports. Phoebe giving a 10% Spectral Res Shred within Confession is one of the best buffs a support can give. So even if they're not really able to use the Spectrofrazzle damage amplification, at least they'll be able to benefit from the 10% Res Shred. But I will say that it's not all sunshine and rainbows for Phoebe, because she does indeed have some flaws. One of which being that Confession Phoebe basically only really works with Zani at the moment. If you want to pull Phoebe and make her a support, you better have Zani. It's a really symbiotic relationship. Phoebe gives exactly what Zani needs, but not really what any other DPS currently needs. She doesn't even have coordinated attacks, and thus she won't really be a good support for Jinshi. So ultimately, if you want to make your Phoebe a support, you better have a Zani. Phoebe's buffs towards Spectrofrazzle are currently just not that useful, because Spectrofrazzle's damage output is pretty low. The reason it works so well with Zani is because Zani's damage counts as Spectrofrazzle. And the reason that she's not really used with the other Spectre DPS being Jinshi is because she doesn't have access to coordinated attacks. So at this current moment, Phoebe's Confession mode is only really used for Zani. And then the only other flaw I can think of is that Phoebe is by no means a top tier DPS anymore. When she came out, she was one of the better DPSs in the game, competing with characters like Carlotta within the Tower of Adversity. But at this current moment, we can't really say that she's a top tier anymore. With so many new DPSs coming out that are balanced more for both endgame modes and also just have higher damage outputs, Phoebe is a little bit left behind. Especially since it's really hard to give Phoebe a new support due to all of the stats that she's giving herself. So ultimately, Phoebe getting an upscale is rather rare. Now, I'm by no means calling her bad. If you at least have her and her signature, you'll be able to complete Tower very easily in a Sanhua Spectral Rover team, and Whimpering Waste shouldn't be offering too much trouble assuming you have Shikona on your team. So while she is still good, don't go around expecting some Cardathea or Augusta level character. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think of Phoebe down in the comments below, and while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Additionally, if you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description down below. And if you want to see more of me as a person, check out my second channel, which is also linked in the description. But that'll be all from me. Peace.